Right. So if you've watched YouTube videos of mine, you've seen this chart before. And I want to continue to use this exact same chart for this program because A, it's familiar, B, it's what my team uses, and C, we're going to just get into way more detail than I would normally in a 10-minute video. So, this video is our graduation process. This isn't just a graduation process video though. This is exactly how I prefer to break down the entire ad account. So I'm going to unpack quite a bit here. Stick with me along the way. I tend to be long winded and add a lot of color where I can. So, what we're looking at first and foremost here is a massive flow chart of your 4 campaigns that you've already created, right? So if we go into our ad account, we've had our scale, retention, retargeting, and prospecting campaign. What I'm going to do for us right now, just to keep this really simple, is I'm going to take this screenshot, I'm going to drop it into our Miro board here, so we could always reference like, what the heck is Sam talking about, right? I think that probably helps in some way, shape, or form. Let's just bring this all the way to the back. Perfect. So now we can see these are our campaigns, right? The scale campaigns here, the retention campaigns down there, the retargeting campaigns here, and the prospecting campaigns right here. So first things first, let's get a nice, perfect. So we're going to start and really focus on the prospecting campaign because this is what means the most. This flow here is the graduation system. It's one of the most important things that we do. And remember, as I said before, the point of the graduation system is to get the most amount of spend on the best performing creatives in your ad account. So here's how we do it. In your prospecting campaign, your prospecting CBO campaign, which is right here, every time you create a new ad set, you're creating it as a pack. You could see these are packs right here. Now, what I prefer to do when we actually look into my prospecting campaign is we can see we have pack number 1. I prefer to take this pack number 1, put a dash next to it, and put the date that I launched the pack, including the year, 8/13/2025. That is today. Every time I launch a new pack, I'm going to duplicate the existing pack. We're going to change the pack number to pack 2. And we're going to change the date. Let's say it was 8/19/2025. What you also might want to do is, in addition to the date, perhaps before the date, is you want to add in a descriptor. So for example, if this is, let's think, if this is lip gloss ads, I don't know, then we want to make sure lip gloss is pushed properly right here. Okay. This just helps us as we're actually working through the account. Now, let's get back to the flowchart. Let's talk about what matters here. So the graduation system is 100% focused on finding which ads spend the most amount of money and are above your target return on ad spend. If they're above your target return on ad spend or your target CPA, then they are technically winners. So I'll explain the parameters behind that in a moment, but I want to show you first what's the end result? What do we do with our winning creatives? So if we have all of these packs that we're actively launching at the same time, and the reason these are all at the same time is because we are creating a hyper competitive environment. We want our ad sets to compete against one another. We want our creatives to compete against one another. We don't ever want a situation where one creative is getting the same amount of spend exactly as all the other creatives. We always want to put ourselves in a scenario where Facebook can allocate the most spend to the best performing asset. So that's why we allow things to be hyper competitive. Now, what does this actually entail? Basically, what happens is, let's say creative in the first pack here is creative numbers 1 and 2 are above our target spend, or above our target ROAS, and are also spending at high delivery. Now, how are we going to define high delivery here? It's going to matter for every single account. It's always going to be different. I'm going to show you a few examples in a moment. But the first thing I want you to just have an idea of here is, let's say our total budget in our entire account is $1,000 per day. So over the course of a 30-day period, we've spent $30K in this account. If we spent $30K in this account, and we're looking back at, say, the last 30 days, just to keep this simple. So over the last 30 days here, let me get something a little smaller. Over the last 30 days, the prospecting campaign, let's just say, spent $30,000. If this creative here has only spent $800, it cannot be a winner. There is no way that this creative can be a winner. It has spent an insignificant portion, under 3% of our total ad spend in this campaign. What we're looking for is clear standout winners. And what this usually is going to mean is you're going to have a few pieces of creative, like 1 or 2 of these creatives, that are going to spend the majority of the $30K. So if this creative, for example, spent $9,000 of the $30K, this one spent, let's say, $6,000 of the $30K. Those are examples of qualifying creatives. If they're a qualifying creative and they're above your T ROAS, your target ROAS, let's say you need to hit a 4x return, and each of these are at 4.2. They are winners. Those winners get graduated into the winners bucket. I've said this before. This is an imaginary placeholder. Okay, so just to go through that one more time, 30K total spend. We have big chunks of spend going to creatives. Those are called qualified creatives. And then our return on ad spend is above our target, which we're setting at 4. So we're above target. Therefore, we can move them into the winners. Now, I'm going to erase this here for a second, but I want to just show you what happens next. So let's say creatives 1 and 2 are qualifying and are winners. We move these into the winners bucket. 2 things happen into the winners bucket. First, easy thing, they go into, right here, they go into our broad scale campaign. That is right here. Okay, so you would take these creatives from your prospecting campaign, you push them in to your scale campaign. The way that we push these ads in is we hard duplicate the ad. So if you have this ad right here, you're clicking this duplicate button, you're clicking show existing reaction, comments, and shares. You're moving it from whatever existing campaign it's in into the scale campaign. Very, very simple setup. You are not pausing down this creative. Not. Loud and clear, not. A general rule of thumb in Facebook is that whenever something's working, don't touch it. Let it go back. You can only, when something's working, only thing you should do is increase the budget. Don't do anything else. So if creative number 1 and creative number 2 are both winners, they're working very well. We're leaving them active here, so they stay active here. I shouldn't really write that out, but we're staying active here. And then there's going to be a duplicate of them into this Advantage Plus scale campaign. Okay. The key here is now we have the ads into here, into our scaling campaign. And the second thing we do, once they're into this winners bucket here, is we create 2 new ad sets into our prospecting campaign. These get graduated into these 2 new ad sets. Let me show you exactly how this is done. So inside of our prospecting campaign, this looks a little funky right now, but inside of our prospecting campaign, we have all these packs. These are all broad packs. And even if you want to, like, just for your own sake, I know sometimes I say things and I realize along the way that, hey, it'd be a little bit better if I wrote broad at the front here. Like, I do things so quickly in the ad accounts these days that, it's second nature. But just so it's clear, if you need to have clear ad set names like this, do it. Don't be afraid to add more than what I'm telling you to. So if we had multiple of our packs here, I'm just going to go ahead and create these 2 different kinds of packs. So we have pack 2. We're going to call this one lip balm. One's a lip gloss, one's a lip balm. We've launched one on 8/13. We've launched one on 8/19. Next thing we need to do is we need to create an interest group. So we're going to click on our campaign. We're going to click create ad set. And instead of starting this one with broad, we're going to start this one, you guessed it, with interest. We're going to call it winners. and we're going to give it a date. Okay, very simple. Notice how it's not a new pack, it's winners. Changing the event setups to everything else that we've already determined: website, max conversions, pixels correct, purchase is correct, attribution setting is 7-day click, 1-day engage, 1-day view. All these attribution settings should be the same. Then our audience is where things start to change for the first time. We're going to click further limit the reach of our ads, switch the setup. We're going to go to custom audience. We're going to add exclusions, and we're going to add the same exclusions that we've set up in our prospecting campaign. So our prospecting campaign exclusions, as we apparently did not set up properly here, but our prospecting campaign exclusions that we need to have in place are going to be our purchase. I think we just had a little saving issue there. Our purchase 180 days and our visitors 30 days. Should get this right in here. Purchase 180, visitors 30 days. You're going to unselect the use as a suggestion just like so. So it's boom, unselect the use as a suggestion. And notice I made a little mistake here. We have to make sure we exclude this audience just like that. Okay. You should see broad. It should say it is broad. Just make sure these are not suggestions in any way. The next thing we need to do is we need to include a detailed targeting interest group. So I know I'm clicking a lot here. Let's go into the audience. We've set up our exclusion for custom. We're going to click on detailed targeting. In detailed targeting, we're going to select and create an interest group. Now, this is another concept that everyone needs to learn. This is called adjacent interest groups. These are the most powerful interest groups you could have. And we're going to have a little bit more talk about this in the future and why this philosophy is so important. But for what you need to know right now is that adjacent interest groups is the idea that if you choose the exact interest of your brand already, you're not actually expanding your audience and you're not doing anything because your broad audience is already hitting your core audience. So what we do with our adjacent interest groups is we set them up in a way where we think about who is our consumer. So let's continue to use the example. We've used this example a little bit so far on Kylie Cosmetics. So Kylie Cosmetics, you're probably looking at, young woman who idolize Kylie Jenner and want to look good, I guess, buy makeup, right? I'm clearly not a girl. I don't really know exactly, but stick with me. If you were to think about who buys her product and who's someone similar in a cross-similar category, something you might say is, okay, what's not makeup that someone might buy in this category? I'll go on a whim and say, maybe it's like a higher end company that sells clothing. Maybe it's something like Aloe or Lululemon. Maybe it's some sort of designer bag of some sort, right? There's different ways that you could push adjacent. But really what I'm looking for, just to keep this very simple, I'll use a Nike example here too. If I was Nike, I don't want to hit Adidas. I don't want to hit Reebok. I don't want to hit Under Armour. If I was Nike, I'd want to think, who's my best customer? Let's target things that they would be interested in. That's the best way I could say it. So if I was Nike, I might target people interested in golf. I might target people interested in fitness, very general, right? Or if I was a smaller brand like Kylie Cosmetics, I might target, like I said before, a completely different category that I'm not used to. So for this example, since we're going on the lip balm, I'm going to target something that I think is upscale, but not necessarily makeup. And I'm just going to go with an attempt at Lululemon. So we see Lululemon Athletica. Okay. We're going to target Lululemon here. And I'm always going to make sure I add that target into here. So we're going to do interest _ Lulu, because I know what that means, -winners -date. So now we're targeting the Lululemon audience, which is still gigantic, 32 million people max, still huge, but we're not targeting an audience that's as usual as we are used to targeting. Okay, so our detailed targeting is set up. We're going back to our scaling strategy here. So we're moving our winners into multiple interest sets. So yes, you're going to have to create a second interest here. Again, create your second interest set in here. We're moving these winners into here. Just like here, and just like we're moving in the scale campaign, we did not pause anything down. We just have multiple copies, which means, yes, you might have 1, 2, 3, 4 versions of the same ad running. But who cares? It's a winner. Doesn't matter. Now, let me give you a little bit of why this is important. You need to have interest groups in your account because they're going to expand these broad audiences. Because how the broad audiences works is if you're already running ads, you're going to notice your broad audience isn't actually hitting 300 million people like it says it will. What your broad audience is doing is taking your pixel information and it's saying, cool, so-and-so's brand, we are going to hit this little group, this little pocket of the internet. And as you find successful interest groups that work, just like we are doing in this setup here, your pocket is going to go from here to here to here to here to here. You're going to have a larger addressable audience as long as you find winning interest groups. And the reason we test interest groups with winners is because it gives them a fair shot. So if I just took a new interest group and just uploaded all this creative into this interest group right here, or worse, if I created a new interest group and I just launched 5 new creatives into this group, we don't know if it's the creative that's doing poorly or if it's the interest group. We know for sure that creative number 1 and creative number 2 are working well, therefore they're winners. Therefore, we can test the interest group with this creative. So we've eliminated the biggest variable in Facebook ads, which is creative. The elimination of that variable means that this audience is more of a true test. It's never perfect. This is a complex algorithm that, to be honest, we're never going to perfectly know. But by doing it this way, we are eliminating one of the hugest variables here and ultimately putting ourselves in a position where we will know more for sure if this interest is better than this broad or if this interest is better than this interest. What we typically like to see out of our interest groups is lower spend than our broad packs. So we expect lower spend. We expect higher efficiency, higher return on ad spend, higher or better CPA, but typically lower spend because there's less available reach. That said, if your interest group here doesn't crank, it doesn't do so well for you right off the bat, I would recommend giving it time. I recommend giving it a couple weeks before you just immediately pause it down. Because what tends to happen is as this interest group spends more money, not only does it balance itself out, it also impacts these broad packs here positively as well. Because these broads go from, they can maybe target 5 million people total to now we have a new interest group that's successful. Now this broad can target something like 9 million people total. It's just made up numbers, but the broad audience gets bigger and therefore they have more of an addressable market and they might even do better as well. So very important breakdown here of why the graduation system is so critical. The core focus, as I've said many times, of this graduation system is we take the best ads and we give them the most amount of spend. Okay. That's the core here of the graduation system. Don't worry, we're going to get into exact ad creatives very soon.